Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boston University's Genealogy Studies webinar called Your Path to the Past, an Intro to BU's Genealogy Studies courses. I'm Sarah, and I'll be moderating today's session as we delve into genealogical research with BU's 3 online courses, discussing what you can expect from your studies with us here. We'll be conducting a live Q&A session as well at the end of our presentation, where you have the chance to ask your questions and join in on the conversation. To do so, just please use your questions box in your attendee control panel to submit questions during that session. And we are recording today's session here, and a link will be sent to your email tomorrow for you to refer to and to share with your networks if you choose to do so. And without further ado, let me introduce our Genealogy Program Director and Certified Genealogist, Melissa Johnson. With 17 years of experience, Melissa is a national lecturer, author, and board member of several genealogy associations. She's also an instructor at respected institutions and brings an incredible depth of knowledge to our program here. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to see so many people here today and that there's so many people that continue to love and have an interest in genealogy. I'm going to start by sharing a little bit of my own personal genealogy story and how I got started. It actually started when I was in grade school. I can't remember if it was 4th or 5th grade. It might have been 4th. My paternal grandfather, who you can see here at the bottom right, he became interested in genealogy when I was a kid. He was actually trying to learn more about his mom's family. She died when he was pretty young, and he used to babysit me. So we used to go through those old family papers together, and that's what really sparked my interest. And he died just a few years after that, and my dad passed those papers along to me, even though I was only 11 years old. And that's what started what would become a lifelong journey into genealogy, first as a hobbyist. Then when I was in college, I started researching a little bit more seriously, and then took on professional genealogy as a part-time job, and then later it turned into a full-time job for me as far as researching. And then I began teaching, and now I'm here with the BU program. So one of my most interesting discoveries that I like to talk about was actually related to my other grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who you can also see here with me when I was a kid. And he was Polish, and I had researched his family for many years back in Poland. And then when DNA testing became popular, I did DNA testing for his children, my mom and her siblings, and found out that he had a different father than I had thought. So all those years of research was actually on someone who was the father of his siblings, but not of him. And so that started me on my DNA journey, really trying to figure out who his father actually was. And that was really interesting and definitely an unexpected find. Another big part of my genealogy journey was the BU program. BU offers 3 programs now, but I was part of the inaugural program in the certificate course, and I took that course in 2011. I started teaching in the program in 2017, and then I became the program director 2 years later in 2019. So BU now offers 3 distinct programs. We have the Genealogical Principles program, Genealogy Practicum, and then our long-standing Genealogical Research Certificate program. So in Genealogical Principles, that is a 7-week program that is geared towards helping people to really improve their genealogical research skills. The program is called Principles, but it's not necessarily beginner or basic level. Most people who take the program have been researching their family on their own for quite a while. They're interested in maybe learning a little bit more, refining their skill set, and making sure that they are conducting quality research. So the course gives sort of an overview of key genealogical concepts and terminology, also gives a solid understanding of the genealogical proof standard, which is what we live by as genealogists. And then we also focus on taking a good dive into finding records of interest and making connections between generations within families. So the program gives a basic introduction to DNA and how it's used in the genealogy field, but we really dive a little farther into DNA in some of our other programs. The principles course is split into 7 modules over a 7-week period, and it does cover the key foundations of genealogy. We dive, like I said, into exploring records, and it takes a good close look at analyzing those records to discover what answers you have to questions in your family, whether they're older brick walls or just trying to get to the next generation. And we also cover proving conclusions using that GPS, the genealogical proof standard. We also will teach you skills in transcribing and abstracting records. Those are 2 very important skill sets that any genealogist should have. And then also planning out your research. Rather than throwing darts and seeing what you get, we teach you how to really effectively plan out your research and how to use DNA within the field. The Genealogy Practicum course is our newest course within the BU Genealogy Studies Program, which was launched about a 1.5 years ago. The course allows students to apply what they already know or what they may have learned in the Practicum course or in another course to real-world cases. So this course is also 7 weeks long, and it includes 5 modules that are each 10 days long. So each of those modules presents students with a new case to work on, as well as course content that teaches each student how to develop 5 key genealogical work products that are used frequently in the field. So those work products are your research plans, your research logs, genealogical compilations of a family, proof discussions for those cases where the evidence maybe isn't so obvious, and research reports. So each week, students dive into one of those pieces of work products and dive into course content that teaches them how to develop them while also working on a case. And then you develop that work product that you're learning about to show your progress on the case. And then BU's flagship program is the Certificate in Genealogical Research program. And what that is it's an intensive 15-week program that covers a lot of different topics. And it is geared more towards intermediate to experienced genealogists or those who have taken principles or practicum already or otherwise have had some real-world practice in the field, working on cases, maybe doing some pro bono work or some lighter client work. And this program has been running for about 15 years. It was recently revised last year to reflect new standards and practices in the field, but it still focuses on building those core skills. So working with quality source material and arriving at sound genealogical conclusions. The first module of the course is genealogical methods, and what that does is it really sets the foundation for those critical thinking skills and helps you focus on having a good research cycle. So from planning your research to executing your research to analyzing everything. And so the evidence evaluation and documentation module is something that focuses on building on that. So we have the evidence evaluation and documentation, and that will focus on your source citations and things like that. Now, in between those two, we have a DNA module, and DNA is now its own separate 2-week module, which was different from the course if you had looked at it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But the DNA module focuses on how DNA is used as a genealogical source to solve problems. So it's not so much of the third-party tools and other things that can help you, put your DNA out there and see what you find. It really focuses on how you can use DNA as a source, just like wills and deeds, to help solve problems. We now also have a separate genealogical writing module that focuses on writing up your conclusions, communicating what you've found in your research, and making sure you're doing that in a way that meets the genealogical proof standard. We also have a forensic genealogy module to wrap up the course, and that covers what is now a very hot topic in the professional genealogy field, which is tracing living individuals, identifying unknown parentage, doing research on criminal cases using DNA. I'm going to talk a little bit also about our instructional team. Many of them have been with us for many, many years. Allison and Michael, particularly, they were my instructors when I took the course. They've been with the program since its inception, but all of them are excellent and very well-known genealogists in the field. Several of them teach in multiple courses, so you will have exposure to them in multiple courses, but you'll also have exposure to a number of different instructors with different areas of expertise. expertise. So each of these instructors has an area of expertise in terms of what they are teaching you, and they are known for that particular expertise within the field. And in addition to our instructional team, you also will work with a number of facilitators who will provide feedback on your assignments and help you along the way as you proceed through the course. I wanted to talk a little bit also about careers in genealogy. Many of you who are thinking of taking our courses are maybe looking to transition to a career in professional genealogy. Maybe some of you have dabbled in it and are looking to take it to the next level and maybe work full time. So I'm going to go over a couple of different career paths that we typically see with our graduates. Many genealogists are solo practitioners. They have their own companies. They specialize in a certain area in the field, perhaps a geographic area of where they live, or maybe an ethnic type of research. Maybe they do German or Irish research. Some people may focus on certain elements of records like naturalization records, or may focus on teaching. So most people are solo practitioners, and that allows them to have a flexible work environment in terms of choosing their own hours. To an extent, you have to visit repositories, you have to get some work done during business hours, but it allows you to work from home. It allows you to sort of have that flexibility in your schedule, but it's also owning a business, which can be hard. And we do, offer through some of our discussion boards some opportunities for you to learn about best ways to do that. A corporate genealogist is another path that you can take with your career. Some of our graduates have gone on to work for large firms like Ancestry.com or some of the larger research firms that are out there. These jobs are definitely fewer, and they are a little bit different in the sense that you may be working with a team as opposed to working, more independently as a solo practitioner. Many of our graduates also are either government contractors or employed directly by the government. There are genealogists who specialize in military repatriation or in researching for Native American tribes for the federal government. There are a lot of jobs out there that focus on that as well. And then many decide to go the forensic genealogy route. Forensic genealogy is, again, a hot field right now, but many of them are also solo practitioners. There also are forensic genealogists who are employed by corporations as well, and they may be working on things like probate cases, which don't necessarily involve DNA, but it is a field in the forensic genealogy realm. And then others may be working directly with DNA, maybe employed by a lab working on criminal research cases, or maybe a solo practitioner or a corporate genealogist working on unknown parentage cases for people using their DNA as a guide for how to do that.
All right, thank you so much, Melissa, for going through the course topics and what one can expect in each of the courses here. We're now going to just take a quick overview for course logistics and get into what you can expect in the actual course as you progress through here. All right, one second. So proximate time commitment for each course is really dependent of individual knowledge, your learning styles, and your experience in the field. So our genealogical principles course, it's recommended to have about 10 to 16 hours a week set aside to complete this course, to keep up with the assignments and progress through with your cohort. The genealogy practicum is a little more than that, 12 to 14 hours a week or so. And the certificate course is roughly 20 to 30 hours a week, as that is a bit of a more robust program course offering. You'll communicate with your instructors via discussion boards and an internal message system. The course is asynchronous yet instructor-led, and so that means classes don't meet at a set time and students can learn on their own schedules, but within a certain time frame. So the modules within each course open and close so that you do progress as a cohort, but you also stay on schedule with the rest of your group. The online class platform is Blackboard, and this is where students read course content, read outside assignments, respond to online discussion questions, and complete their written assignments, all within the Blackboard platform. And here's our program schedule for 2024. Our courses meet multiple times throughout the year, as kind of displayed in the chart here. So the principles course is held 6 times per year, and that's every January, every March, May, July, September, and October as part of session 1 and session 2. Whereas the practicum course is held just every March, July, and October as part of session 2 only. And the certificate course is held 3 times a year, and that's during session 1, which meets January, May, and September. So they are staggered as part of session 1 and session 2. The one that's coming up next is our fall session, which is starting in September, of course. So the fall enrollment deadline is quickly approaching on August 23rd. Class starts September 3rd. For those interested, though, in a later fall start date for the principles and practicum course, that session will begin on October 29th. And the tuition for each course is listed there on the slide, as well as the website that you can go to, genealogyonline.bu.edu, for additional information, a little more in-depth information about each of these courses and what it can provide you. Some payment options. We do offer several payment options for students, and this is in the form of monthly payment plans up to 4 months. There's also employer-funded payments, approved Sallie Mae Smart Loans, and military benefits for eligible individuals. All right, this now takes us to our Q&A session. So we invite our audience here to use the questions box, as I mentioned before, on the right-hand side of your screen to ask your questions. And we do have a rather large audience joining us today, so we'll try to address as many questions as we can in our allotted time period. So we'll dive right in. Okay, first question that just came in here, Sheila asked the cost of the courses, are they in US dollars? Yes, they are. So you can look at the website too, if periodically, if you're looking for any promotional pieces that we might be running, what the payment plan breakdown is, etc. So next question here from Brooke. It sounds like these classes are all built on one another. Is that the case? Would you recommend all 3 to someone who is generally new to genealogy? And I'll pass that to you, Melissa.
Sure. So that really depends on where you are in your educational path. We have a placement quiz on the website, and I would suggest that you take it. It will place you into, 1 or possibly 1 or 2 courses and give you a sense of sort of where you are. We definitely, market the certificate course as an intermediate to advanced course because it is a tougher one. It does take a little bit more of a time commitment, and we really want students to be at the right place in their educational path to take that course. So we don't want you to come into it, even if you love genealogy, you've been doing it for quite a while, if you haven't been familiar with research plans and how to really analyze evidence and don't have a whole lot of education in the ways that genealogists typically do that, you may not be ready for the course. And we really want you to take it when you're ready. You'll get the most out of it that way. So I definitely would take a look at the placement quiz. You may not need the principles course, but maybe you're placed into practicum to just get some practical experience, and then you can move into certificate.
Great, thank you so much. Next question sort of bounces off of that. This person says, I'm interested in a career path. Will completion of all 3 of these courses be adequate to begin a career in this field?
So that's a great question. It's definitely a great start. The courses that we offer teach you definitely the skills that you need to work professionally, but it also depends on what kind of areas you want to specialize in. So if you have a desire to specialize in German research, you may also need to, say, sharpen your foreign language skill set, or you may need to learn about, what additional German or Irish resources are online. So what we're teaching is, generally how to find information, major sources, but if you have sort of a niche area that you want to go in, you may need additional education in that area, but our courses definitely are a good preparation generally for a career in the field.
Great answer. Thank you, Melissa. Our next question for you is, how is the reading material presented? Is it paper, electronic, etc.?
That's also a good question. It is a combination. So there are recommended reading, and those books, some of them are available only in hard copy. Some of them are available both as hard copy or digital. So it's really your preference. And then our course material that we provide you, the course content, is available digitally. And of course, you can print it if you're a paper person. And there's a lot of options and flexibility there in terms of what works best for you.
Thank you very much. Question here I'll answer aloud. Is there a listing of the required books for each course? There is, and it's on our website, which was back on this slide here, if I can get to it. Genealogyonline.bu.edu. If you go there, there is a section for course books and materials, which you can then get a download of the required reading for each course. All right, next question. This person says, I have a full-time job, two kids. I'm interested in the genealogy principles class. Have other students been able to balance the course with their full-time jobs and, of course, having a family?
That's a good question too. Yes, many of them do that. A lot of the people who take our course are, full-time employed. They, may have young kids or parents that, live with them. So I definitely take a look at the recommended number of hours for the course. And those are listed on the website, and they were also included here as well. And definitely I would make sure that you're placing into the course that's right for you. So the placement quiz, I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure that you're taking the course that is right for you. Otherwise, you probably won't stick to that hour limit, because if you're in a course that's a little bit too advanced for where you are currently, you may wind up spending more time, and then the rest of your life would not be doable, the family side, the work side, along with the course. But definitely I would say 90% of our students are working, have families, things like that. And I know I was when I took the course as well.
Thank you very much. Next question, are there other expenses for these courses? For example, do you have to purchase Blackboard? I would say no to purchasing Blackboard, but I don't know if you can answer any other sort of expenses that might be incurred for the student, Melissa.
The only other expenses are the books. That's really it. So you pay for the course, and then you obtain the books. Some of them are books that many of you may have already. So, but it's really just the course and the books.
Great, thank you. And will these courses prepare us to pass the board certification?
Yeah, so I want to emphasize the difference between our course. Our course is the certificate course. BCG certification is through the Board for Certification of Genealogists. Many people who have taken our course have gone on to become certified genealogists, but I do want to emphasize that they are two separate things. But the course is excellent preparation for that. I took the course before I became a certified genealogist, and I think it prepared me very well for it. I know many of our instructors as well. They took the course and went on to become certified genealogists. Many students have as well. It's one of the key sort of recommended programs by the Board for Certification of Genealogists. And I definitely would take a look at certification on their website if you are interested in that. But yes, I do believe it's very helpful along with other education as well.
Thank you. Our next question is, are the reading assignments included in the approximate workload each week?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Our next question from Keith, I see that there are other online courses in genealogy. What advantage does your course have over some of the competitors? I know that might be a all-rounded, maybe tough question, but do you have any insight here for us?
Sure. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is the individualized feedback that you get from our instructors and facilitators. So when you submit a paper, someone is grading that paper, reading it, providing you with lots and lots of feedback. One of the things that we're often praised on is the feedback that we give to the students. It's individualized, so it's not that you're taking a quiz and getting a score. In our certificate program, you're getting individualized feedback, you're participating in discussion boards, and instructors are right there participating with you. And for as far as your papers go, if you have questions about the feedback that was given, there's opportunities to interact with your instructors via messages and live classrooms to clarify that feedback and make sure that you can incorporate it on future assignments. So I would say that's one of the things that really differentiates us. I know there are other general online courses in genealogy. They don't offer a certificate from a university, but they have general basic online content, but they, as far as I'm aware, are not having facilitators and instructors who are there working with you, providing you with comments and feedback as you progress through the course.
Great answer, thank you. This person says, are the course classes available after the allotted weeks to complete weekly studies?
So our courses, while they're online, they're not kind of courses that allow you to go at your own pace. So you are working with the same students and the same instructor for the week or the 4 weeks of that module. And we want you to complete that work before you move on to the next one, because you're progressing through the course with your fellow students all throughout the semester. So there is a time period that you have access to your material, but you are able to save your material from prior lessons. So once you're done with that lesson, you're kind of moving on to the next, but it's always, it's able to be archived on your end. So you have access to it previously, or have access to it going forward, I should say.
Great, thank you. This question has come up a couple times with folks asking if there's any scholarships available, if there's grants for that. And while there's no scholarships or grants, we do have, as seen on the screen here, a few different payment options that you can take advantage of: loans, payment plans, third-party payment from an employer, because these are non-credit programs. So therefore, it does not qualify for any sort of grants or scholarships through the university at this time. All right, our next question for you, Melissa, is this a graded course or is it a pass-fail course?
So the principles course and the certificate courses are both graded. The principles course is graded a little bit differently, a lot more of that is, there are a lot of quizzes and things set up in there in addition to content that you'll be writing on our discussion boards. But our certificate course is graded a little bit more on a higher level, like I mentioned, with you getting very individualized feedback on all of your papers. The certificate course, you're submitting papers, whereas the principles course, you're more responding to our content and our questions that we have for you. And then the practicum course is a pass-fail. So you are submitting work products for each module based on what you learned and the case you worked on. And you are getting that individualized feedback on those work products, just like in the certificate course, but it is not graded. So you're getting the feedback and you're knowing, where you went right, where you went wrong, but it's a pass if you submit your assignment.
Thank you. A few people have mentioned the start dates in 2025, particularly the January session. This person says, I'm interested in the program starting in 2025. Is the class schedule timeline the same? I would say timeline between 7 to 15 weeks is the same, as it starts January 14th for the session 1, spring session 1 session. All right, so our next question here, let me just read down the line, one moment. All right, for you, Melissa, can you please explain the value of the certificate earned through the BU program?
Sure. So the BU certificate is regarded very highly in the genealogy field. I've seen many job descriptions that require either our certificate or a credential or an accreditation as a prerequisite for or a requirement for a job. The certificate course is also something that has a great alumni group going along with it. So we have, since the program started, which is almost 15 years ago, or about 15 years ago, there's a huge alumni group that is active on Facebook, on a mailing list, and at many in-person conferences. So it's a great networking resource as well. So I would say those are some of the values. It's very highly regarded in general, and you would be part of a well-established alumni group.
Great, thank you. And what is the average class size? Particularly, there's no mention of which one, but for say maybe a principal's versus a certificate program or certificate course.
Sure. So our class sizes really vary. There are some semesters and seasons where people are, more interested in taking a course, probably based on workload and kids being home for the summer and things like that. But within each class, no matter how many students we have, if it's one of the larger ones or smaller ones, you are put into kind of a group or a cohort that you stay with throughout the course. And those are typically about 20 people. That are in your particular group, and that's who you will be interacting with for the duration of the course.
Great, thank you very much. And I think you might have touched on this a little bit already, but can you please explain, other than personal feedback on assignments, are there any question, answer, discussion sessions with an instructor and the students?
Sure. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for interaction in the course. So as you mentioned, the personal feedback, we have discussion boards, and some of the discussion boards are graded, some of them are not. We also have a water cooler board where you can interact with other students on just random topics. If a new collection was released or something really exciting is happening in the field, that's a place to talk about it. We have live classrooms where you interact with the instructor. We have office hours. The instructors often will initiate office hours certain times that they are available for either a one-on-one session or for people to enter office hours as like a larger group. That we have lectures that are given, and there's Q&A after the lecture. There's a lot of different opportunities to interact with the instructors.
Great, thank you so much. This is sort of a two-part question for you, Melissa, about the practicum course. This person says, you mentioned in the practicum course that it is dependent on the case that you work on. Are there different cases for different students, or does everyone do the same case? So that's the first part of the question. And the second part is, if there are multiple cases, does the student have access to all to improve their skills or learn from their mistakes?
Sure. So the practicum course, like I said, is set up. It has 5 modules. Each module you learn about a different work product and work on a different case to show your work on that work product, or show your work on that case with the work product. So for example, module 1, case 1, everyone's working on that one case. Then you move on to module 2, case 2, everyone is working on that case. And the cases are all a little bit different. So we choose different time periods, different ethnicities, different parts of the country or other countries that the cases take place in. So you get a variety of different research skills, but you will be working on the same case as all the other students. And we do have, as part of that, a student-led discussion group when the case is concluded. We don't offer, too much discussion while the case is ongoing, because we don't want anyone to sort of spoil the case for anyone else by sharing what they found if the other person hadn't found it yet. So in the course, you are working on the case solo, but there's lots of opportunity to ask questions to the instructor and facilitator during office hours, and then you get to collaborate with your fellow students at the end after the papers are submitted.
Great, thank you. Our next question, I can answer this. When does the monthly payment start for the September class? Do you have to have it paid before you start? So the answer to that is yes, it should be paid before the start. And because the enrollment deadline for the September 3rd course is this month. August 23rd is the enrollment deadline, right around there. Usually it's open for a few days after, before we have to close that cohort. There is no payment options at this time because it would be a pay in full for the current month, just because it starts relatively soon. But after that, for the January session, which would be the next session that would offer a 4-month or 3-month payment plan, that's when it would kick in that you could do monthly installments at that time. Hope that answers your question. Our next question from Mary is, are there people in the class from all over the country? She's in Colorado, but do you have to be from the Boston area?
Absolutely not. You don't have to be from the Boston area. We do have students from all over the country and internationally as well. We have usually several international students each semester.
Great, thank you. Is all the research that we'll be doing done online, or will we be expected to travel to locations where we need to research offline? This would apply for any class.
Everything is online currently, so there's no travel anywhere that's required as part of our current course load.
All right. And next question that just came in, are you allowed to use Ancestry.com or other resources? So maybe we can touch a little bit on the resources that students would be expected to use in this course.
Sure. So as part of the course, we offer you for the semester access to Ancestry Library. So you'll have access to that as part of the course. It's not an additional cost. It's just part of your enrollment. And then aside from that, there are a couple other resources that we give you access to for certain materials that are needed for certain assignments. But if you have your own personal subscriptions, you can use those for some assignments. Each assignment has its own restrictions and parameters, so you just have to follow the individual assignment instructions, but we do give you access to Ancestry Library. We want you to use that over your own personal Ancestry subscription, and then other resources as needed based on the assignment. But you're not required to have any subscriptions to take the course. We give you everything that you need.
Great, thank you. Not sure if maybe you can answer this question for us, Melissa. Otherwise, I'll have one of the team members on the back end answer it. Do you have an option to go on campus if needed for research in the class? I'm assuming this person might be local to the Boston area.
Sure. So I actually don't know the specific answer to that question, but I don't think it's needed. There wouldn't be any reason for you to visit anywhere, even a BU facility, to complete the work needed for the course. So I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in there, but I don't think that's needed or required.
I think that's a sufficient response there. Thank you. All right, we have about 20 minutes or so left. So if anyone hasn't asked a question, or if someone would like to ask another question, please be sure to get it in, and we'll be sure to get that in the queue. Our next question is, I'm interested in FIGG for criminal cases, FIG. Are there 3 courses, are these 3 courses the general foundation needed? Would a certificate from BCG be needed as well for this particular line of work?
So it really depends on where you are in your educational journey. So we have a lot of students that come to us from a criminal law background, either people who are current law enforcement or maybe work for an attorney's office, and they come to us and they haven't really dabbled in genealogy much. So if that's the case, I definitely would suggest starting with principles and then moving on to practicum and then certificate. But it really does depend. You don't necessarily need to be certified with BCG to do this type of work. It certainly doesn't hurt to have that, and if that's something you want to pursue, like I said, the course is a great prep for that. But the general foundation needed, as far as our courses go, absolutely. We have a lot of people from, like I mentioned, law enforcement agencies who take our certificate course so that they can work on similar cases.
Great answer, thank you. Following up from our last, one of our last answers about Ancestry.com, do we use newspapers.com in any of the research?
If you have a personal subscription to it, there are certain assignments where you are allowed to use your own personal subscriptions, but you're not required to have it.
Thank you. A bit of a technical question I'll pass to you, Melissa. For the class, do you recommend an iPad or a laptop for use?
I would recommend a laptop over an iPad.
Yes. You do get that question a lot, so I'm glad actually someone asked that here just to clarify. Thank you. All right. Would you be able to complete the Fall 1 Principles course and then go directly to the Fall 2 Practicum course, so sort of a bridge to that practicum, and finish in January with the certificate course?
So technically speaking, I think that you could do that. There's no overlap between fall 1, fall 2, and spring. For some people, that might be a little too quick of a progression. It really depends on where you are. As I mentioned in your educational journey, you may want to take the placement quiz and see where you wind up. Often the principles course, people take practicum shortly after that, but sometimes people also want to take some time and maybe work on some pro bono cases or take on a client or two before they jump into certificate, or they may want to learn, a little bit more about the field of genealogy through another course. So I definitely would take the placement quiz and see where that gets you. And if you have any other questions, you can always send me an email.
Great, thank you. This is a really good question from Keith here. I think one that a lot of prospective students ask or maybe are apprehensive about once they begin. In general, what do most students find to be the most difficult part or perhaps may struggle with in understanding these course materials?
Sure. So maybe not so much in understanding the course materials, but some of the content that I think students might struggle with the most is the research planning element. And I think that's just because many people who have dabbled in genealogy, maybe had it as a hobby for even 10, 20, 30 years. If you haven't really worked professionally or tried to work on something where you have to show it to someone else, maybe some students haven't really come up with a research plan or thought about doing that, because you get so excited when you find one thing that you just want to get to the next, to the next, to the next, and pretty soon you're up until 3 a.m. and you're down a rabbit hole, and it's all very exciting. But one of the things that we try to teach students is that you'll have better results. They might not be as quick, or that might not be that instant gratification that you're looking for when you're researching someone and excited about finding something new. It's the research planning element. So research planning is important to make sure that you are identifying resources that have the likelihood to answer the question or to find the information that you're looking for. And when you go kind of quickly and down that rabbit hole because it's exciting, you might miss something that, and I'm sure many of us have been there, we went down one path and then we totally overlooked something. So what we try to teach students is that research planning element, to take a step back, really think about what you're looking for and write it all down. Think about what you're going to search for in terms of search terms, where you're going to search for that material, rather than just kind of throwing a global search out there and finding what you find and then going to the next thing. So I think that's probably the thing students struggle with the most, because they have sort of developed a habit over however many years they've been researching of not doing it that way. So kind of restructuring and rethinking about how to approach research is probably the struggle for most. But we do get a lot of feedback from students who have said, it was hard to get used to doing that, but it's definitely worth it in the end, and they think their research results are better in the end after learning how to really refine that process.
Thank you for shedding some light on that for us. Our next question is, are you allowed to use resources at the MA Archives, Massachusetts Archives, or New England Historic Genealogy Society?
So it depends on the assignment. Like I mentioned, each assignment has different parameters. Some assignments say, use only online sources. Some are different, so it really depends. We don't necessarily restrict you from using a specific resource, but there are some assignments that might say, don't contact any repositories. And we put that in place because, remember, there are many students working on the same assignment at the same time. So if they all called the Massachusetts Archives looking for a certain record or certain information, that puts like a real strain on the repository. So that's why some of our assignments say, don't use any on any on-site resources for that reason alone. So it's really just dependent on the assignment. If you have a subscription, for example, though, to the New England Historic Genealogical Society, that certainly is something that you could use because that's an online resource. That's not calling or going somewhere and, you know, putting a strain on someone's resources.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. All right, this person's asking, can you put the course schedule up again? Absolutely. Let me just get to it here. So here's the program schedule for 2024. This is exactly the same as the months for 2025 for each of the 3 courses. And for the fall session, so fall 1 and fall 2, here are the dates if you would like more specifics on that. So the current fall 1 that we're enrolling for now is September 3rd start date. Fall 2, if you'd like to start later, is October 29th. And here's the deadlines as well. And we will be sending a recording to all registrants after this, so you can certainly reference this again or go to the website and we'll have it all laid out there for you as well. All right, we have just a couple questions left in the queue here. I know Amber, our enrollment advisor, is answering some on the back end for us too. So if you don't hear it read aloud, you'll probably have a message in your chat. The next question is, do you need a program like Roots, Magic, or Family Tree Maker?
You don't. Many genealogists have those and use them, but we don't require them for our course.
All right. This person says, thinking of gaining the certification just for personal growth, not a career move. Is this a valid goal to have?
Yeah, a lot of people do that. Many people take these courses and seek BCG certification just to make sure that their own work is up to par and to make sure that they're making valid conclusions. So absolutely.
And I think that actually nicely answers the next question from Michelle, where she says, can I use this for my own personal research? And you just sort of touched on it there as well. So absolutely, Michelle. From Mary, does one of your courses put the emphasis on DNA research in particularly building family trees?
I would say our certificate program in the last module in the forensic genealogy module would be the one that has the most emphasis on that.
Great. All right, so this person says, I don't live in the US. My country has very little research organizations. Will that affect my work in this course?
No, we don't require that you belong to any membership organizations or anything like that to be part of the course. So all you need is to be able to log in and connect to the course and access the course materials and have the recommended reading, the books that are required.
All right. And it looks like that might be the end of our current queue of questions here. One person just asked, is this webinar being recorded? They got on late. Yes, it is. You can certainly check your inbox tomorrow. You will have the recording from today's session in an email there. All right. Sorry, one last question as it comes in here. The total course cost to certificate level is approximately $5,000. I'm not sure the question, but if you're asking about the certificate course, the one-time payment is listed here on the screen. It's $2,695 for the certificate course.
And I'll add to that too. So you don't necessarily have to take all 3 of these in succession. I'll emphasize again the placement quiz, see where it places you. You may not need the principles course, which is our 7-week program that is the most basic, although I wouldn't call it basic. So you may place into practicum or may place into certificate. And, you know, of course, there's no requirement to take these back to back to back. We actually usually don't recommend that. We recommend some time in between to learn a little bit more and get some pro bono work done. So I would definitely check it out and see where you place and see what course is best for you.
Thank you so much. All right, so that does conclude our Q&A session for today. Thank you all for your questions. If there's anything that we didn't answer, please contact us at the email listed here, the telephone, or on our website, we do have a live chat option to chat with an enrollment advisor as well. So with that, I would like to thank everyone once again for joining us today. Thank you, Melissa, for all of your insights and answering all of these thoughtful questions for us. We hope that this time you're taking to engage with us will help you continue on in your genealogy education or just the field of genealogy, and certainly hope that you consider joining our upcoming fall sessions where you can continue your genealogical discoveries together in a group setting. And with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.